The city of Fullerton is in the process of approving a $2.4 million trail segment. And this isn't just a city issue because 1.7 million of that is state of California money. So they're trying to plan or approve a $2.4 million trail segment to connect where I'm at now, Independence Park, with the closed gym, closed racquetball court, missing playground, et cetera, to phase one of the Union Pacific Trail, which was completed in late 2006, and itself connecting to Union Pacific Park, which was supposed to be completed in 2003 about. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk the trail, look at what's already there, look at how phase one has or hasn't been maintained, and try to decide if $2.4 million is justified to connect these amenities and for what they plan on doing. So come with me, enjoy, and let's figure it out. So we start here at Independence Park, and the park essentially at this point consists of three usable amenities and a bunch of stuff that's either pointless or gone. The amenities are going to be the Janet Evans Swim Complex. It's open about 3 hours a day at the best of times. We've got some gym equipment, exercise equipment, which children today have been using all day as playground equipment because the playground equipment was removed. Then we have a skate park, which members of the Parks Commission and the Parks Department want to remove. They don't like the homeless there. They don't like the kids that are there, etc. But they want to get rid of the skate park instead of just adding more of a police presence or making sure that it's maintained properly. Otherwise, you have a bunch of green space. You can see this nice sort of dip here. The city wants to get rid of that and level it out so people can kick a ball around or what have you. They want to pull gravel and dirt out of the trail project to fix this and make it more level. So again, people can just play on it for sports and what have you, even though we have a lot of sports complexes in the city. Right now, it's being used for a couple parties. It looks like there's some pop-up tents over there. That's mostly what happens here to begin with. Then we have the entirely closed gymnasium where there's racquetball courts that are also closed, even though people do use it for handball. And it's going to take about $1 million+ to revitalize that gym, which has been closed for 5 years. They closed it in 2020, and then they found that there were structural problems, and it has been closed ever since. So this is Independence Park. This is one half of the trail system, or the one end point of the trail system, and it's either dilapidated, falling apart, mostly closed, missing amenities, and entirely underutilized. Now, this is where the trail is going to connect. You can see this red curb in the back. The trail system, the Union Pacific Trail System, phase one will connect to phase two. Phase two will end right there at this back corner of the park. There's currently no way to get into the fence technically, or into the park from the fence technically there. But we're going to walk off and show you how it's going to be accessed and what there actually is there. Here's the pad where they're going to put in the entrance. It'll all be right here. Now, if you look down, you can sort of see a couple gaps in the fence that have been cut by homeless and what have you. So let's just go down through here, get through the fence, try not to get stung by the bee. And here we are. So here we are at the BNSF right of way, which in theory will become the Union Pacific Trail Phase 2, and it will connect down on Richmond Avenue, which we will walk to in a minute. So we've got this, it'll end here. They don't really talk about what will happen with the right of way in that direction, but in theory, a security fence or a safety fence will be put up along the railroad because it is an active track and we don't want people running on the tracks. We don't need a Stand By Me moment or anything like that. Now here we have, as you can see, we have some lovely artwork. You'll see quite a bit of this. Fullerton being an education city, I'm guessing these are art majors from Cal State Fullerton or Fullerton College, and this is their preferred canvas. You can see there's a lot more across the way on the various buildings down there. This changes daily. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Now, there is a culvert on the side over here for drainage and whatnot. They're talking about grading all of this. So they're going to have to level all of this out. In this dipped area, they do plan to put a bunch of trees and plants. So we'll see what happens there. But down here is where they're going to plan to put some trees to allow for the green belt or the greening of this area, because this grant is for $1.7 million and comes from the Natural Resources Board of the state of California and is predicated on greening of the area. So they're going to add a bunch of shrubs and a bunch of trees into the area. Here's some spray cans, art supplies for our lovely canvases. This is new since this morning. So, like I said, this changes daily. There's some drainage that has to be dealt with. And this is where it gets interesting because this is what you're really going to see. This is the views and vistas of the Union Pacific Trail. It's all industrial. We got apartment complexes over there, but it's all industrial. It's not residential. It's not neighborhoods or backyards for most of it. It's industrial properties, window tinting, what have you. Water razor wire. Usually people sleeping down here, kind of over there as well. Right here, right here. The whole railway right of way goes that way. That goes left. We're going to go right because this is the trail itself. Even if they put a fence up, they're going to have to put a fence at the property line. There's still going to be some right of way for the train because this is, again, an active railway. So over here, this is interesting. This property is an asphalt slurry storage facility where they transfer slurry to maintain roads. So they use this as a slurry seal and they store it in these containers. Then they fill up trucks from there. When they're doing it, it really does have a pungent smell of asphalt. So that will be fun as people walk the trail. Over here, we've got some new fencing, razor wire coming down over there, but some new fencing. This is put here by this business itself. They do metal plating, I believe. The fencing only goes so far, so that's interesting. It doesn't actually encompass the whole property. Got trucks over here, people building a little shelter for whatever reason. More razor wire, a lot more razor wire, a lot of industrial, a lot of tagging. This is more of the drainage area that's going to have trees in it, allegedly. But the trees are going to have to be pretty prominent to hide all of this industrial stuff. So this is the first break in the trail. This trail doesn't really connect anything, but this is the first break in the trail from Independence Park down there, abutting all of these adjacent properties that are all industrial. We get to Richmond Avenue. Turns over there on Walnut, and on the other side, it's Truslow. And then the crosswalk, in theory, would be here to get to the first part of phase two. Go ahead and cross over here. This is an educational building or education related building, but again, more razor wire everywhere. Some recent removal of graffiti. Be nice if color matching was a thing, but anyways, recent removal of graffiti on both sides. Look over here, we see again more industrial, large trucks, getting some pretty large trees to cover that. So here we have a testing well. There are about 10 of them on the trail. They are testing for various chemicals. One of the things they test for is TCE. So they test for vapors and chemicals in the soil. because of all the heavy industrial that has been going on here for literal decades. There was paperwork I saw from the city that a consultant claimed the ground wasn't hazardous, so it didn't have to be, hazmated out of here, but it could have enough heavy metals in it to be detrimental to some plant life. So it required more testing for that, which could be a problem since the $1.7 million grant that the city got for the state of California's Natural Resources Board is predicated on putting plant life in here. So we would hope the plant life would survive. Looks like on this side, the taggers are currently winning. Here's some more of the testing wells, more recent ones, even. Over there, it's massively drops off on both sides, whereas here it's more flat. So the grading is going to be needed to match on both sides, obviously. Now, the reason I bring up the fact that it's a de facto trail is that the city doesn't really maintain it. There isn't any dedicated reason to pick up the trash. So the argument from the city is essentially, unless they beautify it and dump millions of dollars, they're not going to keep the city clean. Um, when that does beg a few questions, which we'll get to in a moment. One of the most compelling arguments I've seen to build this trail was the people crying at the microphone that they don't have nice things in the area. And that's their justification for spending $2.4 million to build this one section I've just walked. It was originally going to be $177,000 of city money back in 2020. In 2024, it turned into $330,000 of city money. And then at the last council meeting, they added an additional $300,000 for a grand total of $630,000 of city money to turn what's right here back there to Independence Park that I just walked into a trail. Now, that's just $630,000 of city money on top of the $1.7 million of state grant money to turn this into a more beautified, walkable area with a bike path and a walking path and what have you. So there you have it. That is the location of phase two. Of course, there's no question the city can spend the money to build the trail. The question is whether or not they will spend the money to maintain the trail. That's going to be $2.4 million, 660,000 of city money. Now, because this is important, if you look over there, that's where the phase one trail ends. The city has estimated that 105,000 people will use the whole trail system once they spend the $2.4 million to build this. But I've seen three people and three chickens on here in 3 days, so that's interesting. But okay, let's walk over to phase one and see how they're doing right now. I haven't seen any numbers or anecdotes to see how many people use this other phase, phase one of the trail, which again has been completed for many, many years. It was completed in 2006. And interestingly, there's no signage anywhere, which seems odd. We can go that way, that way. No, obviously, we're going to go this way. Now, here's the fencing. There is no fencing there, which is seems dangerous, but okay. But here's the fencing. And this is the start and or end of phase one of the Fullerton Union Pacific Trail. Look at that fencing right there. Look how great that is. It's what we've come to expect. So we've got fencing. Let's just walk along this and see the quality of the fencing that's happening. Mismatched plants. Sorry for the shaky camera. I'm just walking fast. I've been walking a lot. This has been like this for more than a year and a half. I documented this back in January 2024. The city has done almost nothing to keep it clean. They did clean up an encampment back there, but that's about it. Over here, we can see some early plants that have either dead or dying. So that's not well maintained. But for unknown reasons, we have to believe that the city will maintain all of the plants on the new part of the trail. They have a history in the city of not doing that. So kind of not trustworthy. That looks like someone sleeping back there, but it could just be a shelter for cats. I'm not really sure. Let's keep walking. It is dusk. It's 80 degrees outside on a Sunday. Nobody is out here but me. Another part of the trail that ends into a crosswalk. Not too many cars take this. It only goes to this building here, that building there, and the park that we're heading to right now. Again, no signage to tell you which way to go on the trail. Theoretically, you could take it right, go down to the end of the sidewalk and cross back over. But we're going to go left because this is the way we will assume most people will be walking. You can see the lovely fence, no caps, more damage, hasn't been cleaned in forever. There's no brush, no plant life. A couple trees here, sporadically, some plants on the other side of the fence, but the trail itself has tagging as its major ornament. Now, again, it goes to the point that if you're selling the usability of phase two, you would assume you would take care of phase one in order to convince people they want to utilize the whole trail system. But if this is how the city paid for and is maintaining, theoretically, maintaining a current trail, what can we really expect from the new trail in the future? Can we expect more of these dying plants or no plants at all? Because that $1.7 million isn't going to green this area. Now, the trail, we're going to walk off the trail just for a minute, just to show you a better idea of where we're at and the maintenance that the city is so capable of doing, apparently. That's the trail there. You can see over here, we are walking here to the sign. This is Union Pacific Park in the city of Fullerton. So we can see that the entire park is closed. It's been like this for years. The fence was erected several years ago. It comes and goes in various iterations, gets pushed over, knocked over, what have you. Locks have been cut so people can get through here. Essentially, the story is that this park, Union Pacific Park, was funded losing a lot of state money in 1999. It should have opened around 2003 or so, I think 2006, and it was immediately closed due to soil contamination. Now, that soil contamination has since been remediated back by, I think, 2014, but there has never been a park put back here because of various problems and just the way this city functions, unfortunately. As you can see, this is where the trail should pick up. So we're going to walk this and walk over here because that would make the most sense for most people to be able to use this trail. But alas, it is closed because the park is closed. The trail doesn't need a park to be able to use the trail. But instead of just keeping the trail open and closing the park, they've closed everything. See, the park is completely gone. Everything's been removed except, well, there's some concrete here on the ground, some rocks and what have you. But everything else is gone. Playground equipment's gone, the canopies are gone, the barbecue equipment's gone, everything. There really is no reason why the fence shouldn't be here so people can use this trail. Like, why can't the fence be there so people can use this trail instead of having it all closed off? It kind of makes no sense except for as an excuse to have a grand plan to reopen everything. But let's keep walking. Again, nothing at all here. Closed off. People can't even kick a ball out here without going through a fence like I had to. Perfectly good open space, unusable for more than a decade. The one thing that can be used over here, which is also fenced off, are a couple of basketball courts. And I can't think of any good reason that they would close that, but here we go. So they can't use the lights because people have cut all the wiring. So that's fun. The same thing has happened to that light, to that light. There's our basketball courts that nobody is supposed to be able to use. And you would think that the trail ends here at this pedestrian bridge. So if we look, it actually was relatively clean because the Apple Corporation was filming a movie or TV show over here. So they put a bunch of these plants in and cleaned up all the tagging. Here, the tagging is already back a day later, but they cleaned up all the tagging and put a bunch of plant life in here to make it look better for Apple TV, not for the city of Fullerton. This would look a lot worse were it not for something being filmed here. That's the level of maintenance we've come to expect. This is the pedestrian bridge over Harbor Boulevard that has Welcome to Fullerton written on it. If you're coming from Anaheim northbound on Harbor, you'll see the big Welcome to Fullerton sign. That's right here. It goes into downtown Fullerton. But we'll keep going because this actually isn't where the trail ends. Yeah, more tagging, cleaned up for less than a day. This is where I thought the trail ended, but in fact, it does not. Now, the difference between this area and this area is that this is public property with all of the tagging, which is only beautified because of a private corporation wanting to film a movie here. And this is private property maintained by private owners. So let's keep going on the trail here. You'll notice how much cleaner it is, how much nicer it is. You don't see homeless detritus over here. Don't see a lot of tagging behind me, which we did on the public side. They actually try to clean it up over here. This area, I believe, is maintained by an HOA and other property owners, but it's still a public trail. It's still part of the Union Pacific Trail Phase 1. This is the entrance to it. They have a security gate into the complex, which I would assume you would need a key to get into, but I think somebody just walked through, so it's kind of open, which is weird, but whatever. But it is a clean area. No detritus, no trash, no encampments. Some apartments that open up onto the trail, which seems odd. You would assume this is all just private property because there is no signage, but it is a public right of way. You would never know it. I didn't know it. So this is Walnut Avenue. That is the train station, the Fullerton Transportation Center over across the street. And as we turn around, that's the start of the trail. No signage, no nothing. You'd never know it. The city claims that 105,000 people will use the whole trail system. They can't even sign what's currently already funded and supposed to be maintained. If you walk over here, you'd never know the trail starts here. So the argument the city is making is that 105,000 people will use the whole system, and that's why they need to spend $2.4 million to build phase 2, so they can take you from here, where you wouldn't know the trail starts, into a closed park, and the first part of the trail that's closed, to a $2.4 million improvement into another park that is missing amenities and hasn't been maintained properly, and somehow they want us to believe this is a good investment. What do you think? Drop a comment. Let me know. Cheers.